Well, good afternoon. We're very excited for our second Life After UIS series session. This series was created as a way to help our new alumni and students kind of prepare for the life after college. This series is presented by UIS Unite, which is a great platform opportunity for our alumni, our students, our faculty, staff to get connected and kind of help with the next steps in their journeys. Today's topic is Secure Your Future, the Importance of Insurance for Young Adults. And we have Christine Bailey on the call with us. She received her master's in business administration along with her bachelor's of business administration from UIS, and her husband, Mark Bailey, who was in the Marine Corps and has built his career in insurance. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to them to give you a little bit more information and get today's session started.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that intro, Crystal, and welcome everyone. We're excited to share with you today. So, Crystal, I know you're driving, so go ahead and jump to the next slide for us, if you will. And that way we can give you just a little bit of information about us. So, like Crystal said, I'm a UIS graduate. I received my MBA in 2007, and then I went into the marketing and advertising world for several years. And Mark and I were married in 2016, and he was in insurance, like she said. And so we decided to join forces with my marketing background and his insurance experience and open our own independent insurance agency here in Springfield called Bailey Family Insurance. So time flies. That was 8 years ago. We opened beginning of January 2017. We're now a team of 10. So with Mark and I, we've got a full 8 others here in our office. We're located on 6th Street near South Grand. Our mission is loving the community through protection and education. We really strive to do just that. And so something like this is just right up our alley and wheelhouse. And so we're always just here to be educators. But we specialize in the home and auto and commercial, so business insurance. Renters insurance falls into that home insurance area, and life insurance. We have over 875 five-star Google reviews, and so we're really proud of that. We do feel like that's a testament to what the community does say about us or feel about us. And that note, just a multi-award winning agency with local accolades and things, which is very exciting for us. But our most honored and valued award was actually winning the Agency of the Year for the Independent Insurance Association of America just a couple years ago in 2022. So still kind of riding that. So that's a little bit about us. As I said, my background is marketing and business management. That's what my MBA is. So I got to fulfill my dream of owning our own business. But Mark really is like the insurance guru, and I've built the team to be so as well. So I'm going to hop on over to the next slide and just jump on into what we're here to talk about today. And that is these different coverages and policies that you guys want to get into place and kind of why that matters, and also just even starting at the age that you are and all the things. So,
so as Christine said, she got to fulfill her dream. I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say starting an insurance agency or being in insurance was their dream. But I tell you what, guys, when I was, many years ago, probably, I think when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was 21. And my first, experience with insurance was a gentleman who walked up to me and said, what are you going to do now after school? I said, or as you start to go to college. I said, I don't know, bartend, and kind of finish my degree. And he said, do you ever thought about insurance? And I said, well, my mom still pays for it. So that's about all I knew when I first started out. So I'm really excited to kind of go into a little bit to give you a better background of, and be able to make more educated decisions about your insurance as you still have the opportunity to capitalize on cheaper premiums. So that being said, as you can see here, really what I want to tell you is why it matters, because we all know we have to pay for it, right? It's a requirement, definitely in the state of Illinois and in all other 50 states. So I'm going to go into some tips, some tricks, why it really matters, and why it's here to really help you, not just to be an extra expense. So as we go further, we'll go ahead and take the next slide. So auto insurance, it's not a very exciting topic, but as I stated before, one, it is legally required to have at least the state minimum coverage. But guys, when we start talking about one, what does this mean to you? What is state minimum coverage? And I want the cheapest policy out there. A couple things you want to know is really it's there to protect your future assets. So you've went to school for this long, right? You've spent hours studying all night long, and now trying to jump out of school and utilize your degree to start your adulthood, to start your career, or even enter your new career if you are 20, 30, 40 plus. So that being said, now that you've worked so hard, it's time to start making sure that we're protecting it. So auto insurance is there for one, like we said, financial protection. Let's just say that you're driving a car and just like any other day, the sun gets in your eyes, right? And we can't see, and everybody stops in front of you, and you hit that vehicle. Okay, what is to say somebody either one wasn't hurt, or you guys know as well as I do, vehicles are ridiculously overpriced right now. So you hit that rear bumper 20 years ago, right? That might have been a $500 accident. Now today, that's $5,000, $10,000 because they've got fancy cameras. So in order to be protected, right? We've got that slip of paper, that insurance policy, and knowing that since you have that slip of paper, right, that the insurance company is going to have your back. They're going to take care of that damage. God forbid if anybody was injured in that accident, right? They're going to be able to make sure that this doesn't change the course of your life. And that's honestly why it's so important, right? We all think that we're invincible, right? We all think that we're not going to get any accidents or we're not going to get any tickets. By the time I'm sure everybody on here's age. I think I've already gotten multiple accidents at that point. So if my mom didn't pay for that insurance, right, or if I didn't start picking up that tab after high school or in the Marine Corps, I could have started off my life with a deficit, even greater deficit than sometimes our student loans, right, or sometimes our first car bills or anything else, or that credit card bill after your mom, dad set us free. So by making sure that we're taking the appropriate steps as soon as we enter the adulthood or enter the workforce and getting that auto insurance, we're going to talk about a couple other insurances that I want you guys to be cognizant of and start to think of. Then it really does say, hey, we're going to make sure that you aren't financially ruined.
Yes, and even though we are saying that it is required by law, and it is, you will be shocked that the number of people that are on the roads that aren't insured. And so not only is the auto insurance going to fix your own vehicle or make it to where you're not in financial ruin if you cause the accident, but let's say that you get hit by another driver that's not insured. Also can financially ruin you unless you have your own auto insurance in place that has those limits for the underinsured or uninsured motorists. And that's what's built into these policies. But we've heard just story after story after story that them protecting themselves is what saved them in that type of catastrophic incident. And so just know that there's protection kind of all around for any scenario.
Well, guys, that also, because let's just say that either you didn't have insurance, right, or that other party that hit you did not have insurance. At this point, the insurance companies are going to go after them. They're going to garnish their wages, right? They're going to start seizing their assets. Even let's say they didn't have any wages or any assets to take. They're going to send them into a whirlwind that's going to put them deeper in the hole. That's why it's so important to try to make sure that you're putting in the insurance in your monthly budget, right? I know it's tight. I know inflation is going crazy, and I know it's just harder times out there. But think of it as that layer of protection that could spiral you into an even greater debt. That being said, let's talk a little bit about renter's insurance. We're on the next slide.
Yes, so these two will go hand in hand with the renters, and the next slide, the home insurance. So whether you own your home or whether you rent, but just kind of getting a big picture about you would need one or the other, of course, depending on what your home situation is.
Guys, honestly, renter's insurance is a caveat, right? We always think, and I remember 100% to this day saying, well, I don't need renter's insurance. I don't have that much stuff. Right? Honestly, renter's insurance averages from about $15 to about $30 a month. What that does is not only covers the belongings that you have, right? Because right now, if you look around your house, you may see, hey, I've got $500 worth of stuff. I've got $5,000 worth of stuff. But what is that hit that you can financially take right now?
Start adding it up. Clothes, TVs, like you name it, and it adds up.
Yes, exactly. You're talking your toothpaste, right? Deodorant. Those things that we take for granted on a day-to-day, but that it is $5. Eggs, right? That everybody's talking about. Yes. Yeah. So, but not only that, things happen, right? That's what insurance is here for. So if somebody comes to your home, your apartment, wherever you may be, it slips, trips, falls,
burns herself on the pizza.
Exactly. That could potentially be your fault. So friends are friends, family is family until accidents happen. Guys, we see that every single day. Well, my friends would never do this. My family would never do this. But when injuries come and they aren't able to pay those bills either,
they're coming after your insurance.
Yep, or they're coming after you
personally.
And so that's why $15 to $35 a month for any given carrier can definitely protect that. But also, it makes it so you don't have to start over from the beginning. Another thing that I really want you guys to be cognizant of, that as we're talking about renters and homeowners insurance, is every so often, right? Step back in the corner of your home, your apartment, wherever you may be living, and start to take just a quick video or a quick picture of everything that you have, right, inside of that area. Because when the disaster strikes, whether it's a tornado, a storm, a flood inside of the home or the apartment, you're not going to remember, right? The 10 pairs of jeans, right? The 15 pairs of flip-flops, or the shoes or anything else. And the insurance company is going to ask you for a detailed list of all of those, right? If you're anything like us, there's probably 2 drawers that I haven't opened in a year. So I'm not sure what's inside of those, but that's a pro tip. That way, that horrible day, I hope that it never happens.
Fire,
right?
Or something.
That you can already produce that evidence and say, hey, pay me. This was in my house or my apartment.
The last thing I want to say about renters, and then we'll move into home, the next slide. But just one thing I will say about the renters insurance is you might think, well, my landlord has coverage on this place. If your landlord ends up submitting a claim to the carrier, then for the exterior walls, you will not see a dime of that for anything on the inside. And more these days, the insurance carrier that has your landlord insured for said walls wants to see a certificate of insurance that shows that you have the renters, because that means you are a responsible party that's living inside those walls that are being secured by those insurance carriers. So just so you know, that will be something too that may be required more and more.
Well, not only that, I feel like every valid landlord right now is requiring renters insurance, guys, because let's just say you do leave that oven on, or leave that faucet on, or anything, or you leave the heat off, right, and a pipe breaks, then that insurance company from that landlord is going to come after you personally and try to recover anything you can. So again, just like auto insurance, right, it's there to protect your investments, it's there to protect your future. Renters insurance for a small amount is there to protect your future.
So jump to home, Crystal, because they're one and the same.
Yes.
In terms of whether you rent or whether you own the home.
Yeah. They always say protect one of the biggest investments, but I'm pretty sure your student loans probably are the current biggest investment, and or if you decided to take other assets out. So, but we all right when it is harder and harder to purchase a home now with the cost of homes, with the interest rates, right, or with previous debt and trying to qualify for a home. Once you do realize if that is your dream, right, of home ownership, now what do we need to do? We need to protect that, right? Because we had more stuff than we did when we rented, right? We had more stuff than when we didn't even rent, lived in mom's house or dad's house and just had the vehicle. So you kind of see the natural progression. But in making sure the more assets, right, or liabilities that we have, the greater it is to protect them, all right? That's what insurance is. It's pretty much combining a pool of funds, right, with everybody else and saying, hey, if something does go wrong, right, we're going to be here so you don't have to take that financial hit. The typical, really, your skin in the game is going to be your deductible, right? So, and you can pick that. So you're pretty much saying like, hey, if a loss occurs, I can afford $1,000, right? That is a hit that I'm willing to take. What I can't do is go without insurance and afford 5,000, right? 100,000. And so that being said, 1, 2, when you do realize that either if it's a dream or burden of homeownership, whichever way you want to look at it, right, that it is going to be required by most lenders, because technically, just like your vehicle, right, that doesn't even belong to you. That vehicle, if you still have a payment on it, you're driving, you get to drive it around every day, but then it belongs to the bank. Just like that home, that is their asset. So if there's ever a default, right, or if there ever is a claim, you can be put back to the way a position was.
Yes. So just to understand the two, renters would literally be the contents on the inside of a place you don't own. The home is everything on the inside and everything on the outside, and even the roof. If the hail comes through, I mean, you name it, and the entire home would be something that you would get coverage for and reimbursed for should there be a claim.
I saw that phenomenal question on there about lost belongings, right? Renters insurance definitely does, but most importantly, right, let's just say you have specific items that mean a lot to you, right? We've insured lots of crazy things, tooth fairy collections, guns, art, ammo, furs. things that
I didn't see the question.
Oh, it was asking about lost items. Does renter's insurance cover lost items? And so, yep. Will renter's insurance protect losing items from natural disasters such as floods due to storms? That's 100% correct. So, but let's just say we don't even have a flood or a storm, right? Let's just say that you're out in town and you lose your favorite ring, right? Or somehow see either somebody breaks in, right? Or you just misplace your super expensive guitar or anything of that nature. That's why it's very important to have such a candid conversation, right, with your agents. I'm going to tell you that we're not somebody that wants to be intimidating to talk to. We're real people, just like you, right? No matter what agency you go to, they got in this industry to help. And the more that you can disclose, right, of the things that you have that you really care about, the more that we're able to give you solutions and options to protect you. So that being said, you can take out a separate policy. So let's say if grandma does give you your ring and it's worth X amount of dollars, you can actually pay for a certain amount of insurance and say I want a $0 deductible, I want $100 deductible, and that way you can have your own separate policy on there if it ever is lost, stolen, damaged, or anything of the such. But in terms of natural disasters, if things, let's say the house was to blow away, they are paying for those items because they're not only paying for the structure. A portion of these policies are paying for your contents, right? So that's everything inside of that house as well.
Yeah. And the small policy that he was referring to is a personal articles policy, but specifically to that too. That way it doesn't impact your home insurance. And so find yourself an advocate like us or your agent or talk to, and these are things that you just dive into and that they'll be able to educate you on. Crystal, go ahead and jump to that next slide. We'll discuss life insurance.
Guys, this is my favorite topic for multiple reasons. But what I also wanted to mention that as insurance it's very similar to credit, right? So, and kind of going back to the very beginning, the way that you develop credit, right, is by experience. The way that you develop good insurance scores, right, is also by experience. So making sure that one, we get it out of your parents' name and get it onto your own name. I know that's going to be a little bit more expensive. There's ways to kind of minimize that initial sticker shock, right? And then your agent should definitely know how to do those. But that being said, insurance carriers, they want to see you've got a certain amount of years, right? Whether it's no accidents, but it's also good pay, right? Things that also affect your premiums are going to be your credit score, right? Going to be the neighborhood that you potentially live in, right? Because whether it be from crime scores or whether it be from from carriers having too much business in that area. Another thing that I typically tell a lot of our viewers from social media is that insurance carriers, they really only want 2%, 2 to 4% of the market share. So whether it's, let's just say, large name carriers or small name carriers, if they get more than 2% of, let's just say, Springfield, right, they know that the likelihood of them taking on more than they can potentially chew, okay, for lack of a better term, for a storm. So let's say they have 5% of this area and we get another derecho come through. That devastated carriers. That really messed up their profitability. That messed up the current rates that we were at. And now we are all seeing potential increases. So when you see an unjustified increase, right, or you feel it was an unjustified increase from a certain carrier, that's them telling you, we can't tell you we no longer want your business, but you're open to shop or you're open to pay our new rate because this is what we feel is fair. If a disaster comes, that they can reasonably pay out. So again, years ago, right, when we heard our parents or grandparents say that we're staying with a certain carrier for 25 years and they've taken care of me forever. That's just not the case anymore because we now have options, right? We're at an age or a portion in in the world, right, in the economy that options are available at every turn. And so they know that the likelihood of a storm coming, that carrier paying for this claim, right, and you leaving again a year later is greater. So that being said, that's why they're looking at credit, age, the vehicle you drive, the home that you own, the area that you live in, so many different factors. All you really are is an algorithm, right? That's just same as us. You're an algorithm. They're putting it together, putting it into a machine, and figuring out the appropriate rate that you could pay. So kind of going back to that, making sure that we are early on thinking about, one, the coverages that we're picking, right? The agent that we choose to do business with, if they have multiple options, if they have one option, right? And training those scores. So that being said, guys, the one thing that kind of set me up for success and owning my own business was learning about, one, investments, in life insurance very early on in my life. So we're just coming out of the military, right? Just entering into college, and especially entering into the workforce. Life insurance, right? That's a two-facet question because one, well, I don't have any debt, or I'm invincible. I'm never going to pass, or I'm never going to get critically ill. We don't know that, right? I remember literally saying to my agent, especially when we first started talking about auto insurance. Well, what about let's pocket it with life insurance? Well, I don't need it. If I was to pass, there's enough money in my bank account to potentially bury me. But it's not just for that, right? There is so many different ways. One, you do potentially have debt. If you have student loan, right? Who's going to be responsible for that? Because that's not just going to disappear. They're going to either come after your heirs, right? Your parents, your potential estate. If there is anything on there, they're going to start to sell whatever assets you currently have. And we can't just say anymore that, well, it's not my problem, right? I'm past. But the two things I always like to say is, do you really want to be remembered as a blessing, or do you want to be remembered as a burden? Right? I know that I want to be remembered as a blessing. I knew at an early age the last thing that I wanted. Well, one is because my father passed, left me with more. So I knew that I never wanted to do that to my mother, my future family at that point. But also, I knew life insurance could do another thing. One, I was younger. I was a lot skinnier, right? I was a lot healthier. I didn't have any extenuating circumstances. So either whether health come with aging, and they will come. But so I was able to really capitalize at such a smaller rate. And I utilize, right, not only what permanent insurance, so fixed at the same price, for the rest of your life. My biggest thing was putting my money into cash value life insurance. I always diversified, right? I always had either money in the market, right, or anything else. But my biggest thing was finding a life insurance policy, right, that paid me back money, that added cash value that I could take out, right, if I wanted to start a business, if I wanted to buy a home. And I put money in there for so many years, and I had that. You could actually take some of that money out tax free. It's almost like taking a loan from yourself. A lot of influencers out there talking about infinite banking. That comes from a life insurance product, right? Most massively large companies have some of the largest life policies. You can look that up. Not only that, influencers, your actors, or even your business owners, or a lot of your savvier parents or adults are putting money into life insurance. A lot of times too, it's got a floor where you can't lose money. So we're seeing everybody freaking out about the market right now, right? Because they've diversified their funds, which is good for them. But there also needs to be a safe bet that you could continually pull money out, right? Tax advantage. But let's get back to what it's really there for. Setting generations apart, right? We've seen, the Rockefellers, right? We've seen a lot of, the old historians. Like, what did they do? They continue to change the structure of their family's future just by putting a little bit of money down when they were younger, or buying policies on their kids and their grandkids, and continuing to put that back into the estate. So guys, one, it could pay off that college debt, right, as early as that. So you can buy, let's just say, a term policy. So what that is there for, it's there to protect a certain term in your life. So you can buy it for 5 years, right? So if it's a car loan, you're saying, hey, I bought this car. The last thing I want to do is have my parents have that issue, right, of trying to sell the vehicle, or either sell it at a loss because you took a higher interest rate, right, because you were younger. And so that covers them from having to deal with that burden, right? Then we would buy our first house. That covers them from buying that. So we typically take that out for 30 years. So, and those are relatively cheap. So one, we can make sure that you're remembered as a blessing. Two, you can set your family's future apart. Or three, you can plan for when you're going to need that money in the future, right? So it's almost a nest egg, not putting in the bank, because what we're doing, we're at a 0.05% rate that you're going to make your money. Don't give the bank your money. I mean, it's a good spot for a lot of people, like we're saying, where there's a lot of options. I wouldn't give my bank my money. I'm kind of scared of the market, but you got to diversify. But there is a portion too for life insurance.
I think just if the more you talk to people about life insurance, or if you ever hear someone passed away, but yet the family was still able to remain in that home with the same vehicles, and you think, wow, one of the strong family members, let's say the dad passed away, yet the mom and the kids get to still continue. I mean, that's the point of life insurance, is make sure that in addition to being terribly upset and emotionally distraught by losing the person, but now at least they're not being displaced from the home or having to sell off vehicles to pay for the funeral or to pay to make up that income that he provided to that household. So that's like the basic commonality, I guess, of life insurance. But like what Mark was just saying is there's just so many things that you can do with it to where you were able to actually pull that money out. My parents had set me up with life insurance when I was younger, and we were able to go and actually pull some cash out of there, and you can continue to pay, and it looks as though it's a cash reserve. So it's great things about life insurance. The other thing with you being, I would think, I guess in college, perhaps a little bit of the younger demographic, is that, like Mark said, you don't have these pre-existing conditions. You just never know when you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to say, hey, we need to go and take a second look at this. We need to get a biopsy on this. Hey, we actually need to prescribe this. There's different things that can happen as you age.
You get bit by a mosquito or anything nowadays
that could then red flag the insurance carrier to say, ooh, I could see them, because like Mark said, we're all just algorithms and you're just a risk to them. So eventually they'll probably think, oh, that person's going to, the mortality is a lesser amount than the other, and therefore you get charged for it. Everyone can get life insurance. It's just a matter of which kind of bracket you fall into, and then that would help to differentiate the price for you. But I think that's all I was going to say.
I mean, honestly, guys, I'm not sure. I think we might have another question, but in a nutshell, Christine, if insurance.
If I insure a watch, for example, and then later the watch gets stolen, does the insurance company pay me for the current market price for the watch? And if so, will it be more expensive for me to insure watches in the future based off the fact my previous watch was stolen?
Great call. Great question, right? And so, as we kind of alluded to earlier, there's going to be more ways to kind of skin this cat, right? We can get a stated amount policy. So let's just say that you get an appraisal on that watch, and you can then tell us, hey, here's the appraisal. This watch is worth $1,500. I want to insure it for the replacement value, that exact amount. So at that point, then we put it into the system, figure out what carrier wants to insure that watch for the best appropriate rate, and then let's say you did stolen, lost, damaged, any of those such, you would then get that stated amount that you agreed upon earlier. Right. Let's just say that if it was just on your renter's policy, you forgot to tell us you had a super expensive watch, right? Or you forgot to tell us that that one, it was typically worth over $1,500. And on a homeowner's policy or renters, you're going to have a standard deductible. It's going to probably be $1,000. Actually, on your homeowner's policy, a lot of them are going up to potentially $2,000. So that would be under your deductible, and so it would worth filing a claim. But to your points, right? You've got to show, right? One that you have.
Go back.
Yeah.
If you can hear us. The only thing I was going to say was, yes, a lot of times you'll hear life insurance. I get it through my employer. I get it through my job. But you would want to make sure that that's something that actually gets to stay with you beyond if you lost that job. You hear that time and time again. People say that they have it, and then they get laid off and they no longer have it. And now you have to go out and get your own life insurance at that later age. So be kind of cognizant of that.
So locking in early is the best time.
Like when Mark just mentioned, whether it is just a short term policy, when you have discussions with agents such as us, we've even got carriers that will allow, like by adding a little term policy, that there is a small discount towards the auto or the home. The concept is that mortgage protection or something to just to kind of fulfill that those are conversations that you would be having with an agent. So, okay, we're going to skip life insurance, go on to the next slide here. We're about done, and we'll be able to take any other questions. This one's just going to be really brief. We've already talked about this before, but just that, this day and age, having an agent in your corner to be an advocate for you, to be able to talk through these things, that has multiple options. Like Mark said, certain carriers only want certain portions of a territory, or maybe they only like certain types of demographics or types of vehicles or different things. They all have their various appetites. And so just something to be cognizant of when you're searching, and or this day and age, you're getting hit with probably ads about these online companies. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
100%.
And if the time comes for you to think about filing a claim, not having a true person to be able to go and like, let's talk about this, that would be very difficult. We hear all the time. We have an actual claims person on staff at our office. That's what she does all day, is talk claims scenarios. And a lot of times she ends up telling them, hey, like Mark said, the deductible versus the value, like it doesn't really make sense, because if you do file that claim, it's going to follow you forever. It's going to make you a greater risk. It's going to make premiums go up for you in the future. And so it's just being able to have an advocate. Insurance these days, as you probably heard, is becoming a little bit of the wild, wild west. And it's because of the storms. It's because of labor increasing and parts increasing. It's because of the fact that your windshield now has this gadgets and all these different things in it. And that is the name of the game. So just being able to talk through that with somebody is just going to be really important. And so on the last slide here, this is our information. Like we mentioned, we are educators. We really are wanting to explain to you why you need a coverage or why you don't, or just kind of break that down for you. And we really pride ourselves on that. So reach out to your own agent, of course, but if you ever want to talk scenarios or get a quote, we're here for you. Like I said, we're here in Springfield, and we just really appreciate your time, and we wanted to make sure we left some time for questions. So
there's a ton of content out there, guys. Well, as you know, right, don't get steered the wrong direction. If you have any questions, you can definitely one, reach out to us. You can look at our content, or consult a professional.
Well, thank you, Mark and Christine. We really appreciate all the insights and the helpful information. Before we wrap up, is there anybody else that has any questions? Feel free to chat them in, or just unmute yourself and ask. All right. Well, with that, if anything does, sorry, go ahead, Christine.
I was just going to go, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like I said, also, this wasn't meant to scare you. Sometimes we go through the community and we present and talk about insurance. And I do feel like sometimes I look at people's look on their faces and they're like, oh, a lot to think about. And it's not here to scare you. It really is to make sure that you're implementing this and covering yourself and just being informed.
You don't have to do it all now, right? Well, because I know we have 30 minutes here to throw so much at you, right? So it's going to take more than 30 minutes to unpack everything. And it's going to take more than 30 minutes, right, to figure out your auto insurance. It's going to take a lot longer than that to figure out your home and to make these decisions about life insurance, right? Because it's going to affect your entire future. Think about it, right? Go over it. And like I said, don't be overwhelmed. Just know that, hey, this isn't here to punish you or anything else. It's truly here to protect you.
Are you also open to talking to people about starting their own business?
That's our absolute passion.
Gonna say that about insurance being a nice career path.
So not only starting your
do you want to answer the question? We'll dive into the career question.
So not only starting one of your own business, right? So my biggest thing too was talking about joining the insurance career, right? Whether it's not even on the sales side, the education side, or it could be on the claim side, the actuarial side, the marketing side. This is an industry, right, that is recession proof. Since it is mandated, right, it's going to continue to grow, and you can take the license or your experience at any state or anywhere you want to go in the country. So that was really big. But my passion, right, we kind of talked about insurance, is building businesses. That's what we love to do. Like we've talked about our MBA and everything is in marketing. We've built a business that just happens to be insurance. But yes, so we are open. So please, you'll find our contact information. We'd love to steer you in the right direction. Christine, what is that question?
For auto insurance policies, do you guys do any price matching with other major companies such as State Farm, Geico? Do you guys use the same software in forming quotes?
That's a phenomenal question, right? So there is no such thing as price matching or cover, or essentially what you can do is you can cover match what, let's say, an independent agent, right, does versus, let's say, so we actually have Geico. The only company that I really see staying captive, right, in the next 5 years is going to be your State Farms. So what that really means when we say captive, right, versus independent is that they only represent one carrier. So they have one price and one product. The differentiators you're going to see, right, is going to be in coverages. So it's really important when you're looking over different insurance packages is that you're staring at the coverages, right? Because it's really easy to raise a deductible, to lower liability limits, or to take roadside service off and say, hey, we've got a better price. But is that policy really going to be, useful to you? Because we've always seen, name your own price tool. When you name your own price,
you've stripped all your coverages
You've
stripped all your protection away.
Yep.
Like, what does that mean? So, for example, State Farm is doing something more of like a percentage deductible. So instead of just saying $1,000 or $2,500 deductible, depending on what the price of the home is, now you're saying you got a 2-3% deductible.
Yep.
Ooh, deductible just went up to about $25 or to about $5,000-$6,000. But they don't really unpack that for you when they presented that quote to you.
And that's
just make sure that you are reading through the coverages or have a trusted source or advocate.
And that's what we say too. you want an educator. You don't want a salesperson. I don't know how to sell anything, right? But I know how to explain coverages and let you make your own decision. But in terms of the same software, really what we have in our office, and I'm sure many other independent agents have potentially, is a system that one, it's just an API, right? It just patches into each individual carriers. So instead of you spending all the time right online going and putting your information in and getting 100 different phone calls, right, or a million different emails, it's probably that fake email that you've got for your spam box like we do. But so that being said, right, yes, it's called a comparative rater. What it does is it goes in, it quotes it with all these different companies with the package that we built and tells us our most competitive rate for you, right? For you as the algorithm, for your age, for your vehicle, for everything else. And what my job here is at the company is I study the carrier's financials because I want to know what percentage of the market share do they have, right? Are they holding cash? Because are they going to try to get bought out? Are their rates too good to be true? Because if so, we may tell you this, like, hey, this is so cheap. You could buy into it this year, but no, next year you're probably going to get 100% rate increase. So we may look to move, right? Or just don't be sticker shocked while we try to move you. So things like that being said, there's no such thing as a price matching because again, you are the algorithm. The carrier sets the price based off of your risk. So if they were to go in and say, hey, yeah, I can price match that, they're 100% lying because you cannot manipulate the algorithm.
They're changing the different things such as deductibles or removing or adding things to make it to where you're in line with that price, which can be done. Absolutely. It's just, you want to be told that you need to be transparent. Yeah. And so this is not supposed to be a salesy type of PowerPoint, but the QR code there does take directly to our quote link. Like Mark said, some of these things can be lengthy to actually get things over to us. We try to make it as simple as possible. So if you do so from your couch or on the weekend or with your spouse or whatever you need there, but being able to talk to somebody with us, we don't feel that we have sales people. We have educators to where we could say, hey, you could send over what you currently got. And we could just say, hey, you got a great deal going, stay where you are, or you've got the coverages that you need, or hey, we might have a better option for you.
But
so
also test your current agent, right? So that's what we always say. Hey, make sure that you're testing your current agent because the last thing again you're going to want to do is put your information into an online form and get called by a million different people. Maybe you do want to, right? But one, that's going to see what your rates are. Right. So then you're gonna have that out. So that way you can start planning for the future. So one, do it for your auto, do it for your renters, do it for your home, and then put some in there for your life insurance. And if you want somebody to better explain it to you because you're like, hey, I just kind of found this online, we can do that. Or again, your current agent can definitely kind of go over that.
Hopefully that answered everyone's questions. I think we're right within our time frame.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Christine and Mark. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all the insights and everything. Again, if anybody has any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Mark or Christine directly. You do also have the option through the UIS Unite platform. I know Christine has a profile on there as a UIS alumna, so you can always reach out to her through there. We did record today's session, so if you have any friends in the UIS community that you think might be interested in learning a little bit more or viewing this at a later time, we will have this presentation posted in UIS Unite. So with that, again, thank you, Christine and Mark, and everybody have a great Tuesday afternoon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.